Welcome, everybody. We'll give people here a minute to join the room. But thank you for joining us for our webinar here today. We're going to be talking about the XDR effect. I see some people are still filing in, so like I said, we'll give everybody a minute. All right, so still see some people coming in, but we'll just do some quick introductions and some housekeeping here while we're waiting. My name is Eric Wing. I'm one of the technical leaders here at Trend Micro, and I'd like to thank everybody for attending here today. And today we're going to be talking about the XDR effect, the new age of detection and response. And we have two speakers with us today. We have Joahnna Hipolito, who is the technical communications manager and part of Trend Labs. And we have Lucas Silva, who's one of our incident response analysts. So they'll be talking to you about BazarLoader, and then how XDR can be used to help you with that detection response. I do encourage everyone. We do have people looking at the chat and the Q&A. We'll try to answer, any questions that you may have live, as we can. If we don't get to anything, if there's anything outstanding, we'll try to follow up with you afterwards. But you do encourage everybody to take advantage of the chat and the Q&A. So again, thank you for joining us. And with that, I will hand it over to Joanna.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Joanna, and today I'll be sharing about, we'll be talking about BazarLoader. So in case, hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yep.
Okay, in case you're wondering why we will be talking about BazarLoader, so let me put it this way. So for targets of ransomware, their experience of the attack begins once the ransomware itself has already executed in the target system and began its encryption routines. For cybercriminals, however, especially now that we're seeing such attacks become more and more targeted, the moment that the ransomware runs in the target's machine and encrypts the data, is actually somewhere down a longer list of steps that they've already taken. So there's a lot that goes on in a ransomware attack than just one malicious file encrypting data. And that's what we will be talking about today as we discuss BazarLoader. So we'll just start off with some background details on BazarLoader. So the name actually comes from its use of a top-level domain, which is Bazar. So it was first observed in April 2020. It used a lot of various social engineering techniques. I remember that when we first saw it, it was a spam run that used COVID-19 related lures to trick users into clicking emails. It has then expanded to different tricks, which is also what we will be discussing later. What makes BazarLoader really notable is that it is used in targeted attacks as the delivery mechanism for ransomware. So it's the malware that is initially downloaded into the victim's machine to ensure that it is a viable target. So which makes detecting it very, very critical. So BazarLoader uses different techniques to get into systems, and most of them are focused on evading traditional defenses. For example, BazarLoader spams website contact forms to target employees who receive and process information sent into those forms. So this can be one individual or an entire marketing department, or even a CRM system, a customer relationship management system. So this allows the threat actor to bypass email security controls. It also uses cloud services that are commonly used and found in business operations, such as Google Drive. So as you also see in the infection chain here, which since they are unlikely to be blocked, so it will maximize the distribution. There have also been instances where BazarLoader is able to completely bypass email security by using call centers, which is in the last infection chain shown below. So what happens? I want to go into the last one because I think um, it's a really interesting part where it is able to completely bypass the email security system solution. So what happens in those types of attacks is that the victim receives an email that includes a social engineering lure and a phone number that they must contact. So in this example, they will receive an email about a subscription that they will be supposedly paying for. So the tendency, of course, for the victim is to call that number to like verify why they got this email. But what will happen actually is that when the victim calls the number, they will be led to a call center that's operated by cyber criminals where they will be asked to access a malicious file, to download that file. And then once they download that file and run it, it will actually run BazarLoader into their machine. So this is an example of a sample file that is downloaded into the target's computer. So this is I guess the whole infection chain of sample BazarLoader campaign. So if you look at it, the actors are able to bypass email security since the initial email sent to the target does not contain any malicious file or a URL. It's really a message. So it is through the call that the victim is tricked into downloading a malicious file. This technique makes it so that the file is executed almost immediately once it is in the system, since the victim is in the call with the call center agent. So it's once it's downloaded, they will be asked. The victim will be asked to download it. So instead of having to go through an anti-spam solution or even a sandbox, the file is downloaded immediately by the target. So another technique that we saw being used by BazarLoader recently is using compromised installers of applications commonly used in work environments. So we've found compromised versions of VLC and TeamViewer. I'm pretty sure these tools are familiar to all of you, and we found them bundled with BazarLoader. Our assumption is that the delivery mechanism for these malicious files is also similar to what we've seen before, possibly also through a the call center scam or even the web form spam technique. But and technically this technique is not new, but we've only seen this being used by BazarLoader, and it looks like their goal is still to be able to evade traditional solutions. So in terms of targets, we see the US commonly on the list, although the scope differs for different types of campaigns. So this is just a sample breakdown of a couple of campaigns we monitored from January to October this year. So in both campaigns, we saw there's one where there's a very few number of victims. There's also another one where it's a longer list of target countries, but it looks like they are trying to change things up with every run. So in using techniques such as web form spamming, call centers, and compromised installers, BazarLoader operators reduce the number of proactive defense layers between the malware and the intended victim. So in this kind of situation, remote endpoints are the most vulnerable because they are connected to unmanaged networks, and there are fewer layers to analyze potential hostile content, such as documents with malicious macros like the one I showed earlier. So this exposes remote workers to the highest risks, as companies have they have no way of filtering network traffic. So protecting an organization from BazarLoader will require a more advanced security stack. So having a single layer of protection with no network filtering or putting up fewer layers between payload and the malware itself will not be enough. So I know all of you came here to know more about how XDR will be able to help in protecting or defend networks from BazarLoader. So I'll hand you over to Lucas to discuss this further.
Hey, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I am Lucas. For those that join a little bit later, I am Lucas. I'm from the IR team for Americas. So I will be talking about our XDR solution and how we can help you hunting for example, BazarLoader or other malware campaigns inside your environment. So as Johanna was talking about, and BazarLoader has been used and been changed his way of propagating and compromising environments. And today we are going to show a little bit more about this new way that they are using to propagate the malware inside network. We are going to show a little bit how can we use an XDR solution.
Lucas, I don't think you're
Hey.
sharing your screen.
Oh, no, Joanna is sharing some slides
Oh,
for
I'm
me
sorry, I'm
first,
sorry.
and
Okay,
after
all right,
that,
sorry,
I'm
sorry.
going to share the screen. Okay.
My
Yes,
mistake.
just to give, I'm just to give some more context about the threat, and after we go jump to the XDR console. So here we have one example of one legitimate tool being compromised to distribute the BazarLoader. It's a compromised installer of the TeamViewer. So as your first scene, you'll see that this has the TeamViewer icon, seems to be a normal application. But when you go to the properties of the file, you start to see something odd related to the file. So for example, when you see the file description, you see some random name related to the file. So you see that this is not normal. And the product name, it's completely odd. The product version is completely odd. So this is something that caught our attention. But for a normal user, for a user that don't have this kind of expertise, it's going to be a normal file, and you try to execute. And in the way that BazarLoader works, having like a call center, when you call them, they're going to provide those kind of installers saying that you need to install this file so you can have remote access to your machine and your complete network. Your network will be completely compromised. So can you pass the slide, Johanna, please? And after that, when you start the installation of this fake TeamViewer, you'll see that the installation style will be normal. You'll see the progress bar is going to be the normal questions during the installation. But after the installations, you'll see that a new process called STE2 will be started. A new process will be started, and this process will start calling out some IPs on the network. That's going to be the BazarLoader command and control. And after that, probably the attacker is going to use these command and control servers or these command and control channels to deploy tools like Cobalt Strike to move laterally across the network, and after that, deploy the ransomware. So the most important piece that we need to keep in mind regarding BazarLoader, that this is a kind of tool that's really used for initial access. So it's going to be the first piece on a ransomware outbreak. So whenever you see a BazarLoader detection or some indicator of BazarLoader detection, you need to keep in mind that this is the first piece of probably for the first piece for the ransomware outbreak. So that's why it's really dangerous, and that's why what Johanna was talking about. So I'm going to share my screen and show a little bit more about how we can hunt for BazarLoader using an XDR solution. Show our windows. Hold on, let me find the windows. Yes, share. Eric, can you see my screen?
Yes, Lucas, looks good.
Okay, thank you. So just to make sure, just to explain one more thing, what's the difference between a traditional detection and an XDR or EDR solution? When you have a traditional solution, when you find a malware or something that is potentially malicious, you only have the path of this file that was detected, maybe the user that clicked on this file, the user that executed this file, and no more context related to this file or related to this malware. So that's why we need an XDR or an EDR solution, because we need to see the whole picture, how this file went to my environment, how this file was spread to other machines inside my network. So that's why that's the importance to having a XDR solution on the environment. So imagine that you receive a report from FBI or from Trend Micro or from some company saying that, hey, there is a new BazarLoader campaign running out. Those are the IOCs, and here it is. And you want to search on your environment. You want to do a threat hunting for this kind of IOCs on your environment. So in my case, I'm going to do a really simple search on my environment. I would like to see in the last 24 hours if this IOC was present on my environment, if anyone received this file on my environment. It could be from email messages like a spam. It could be from someone that just executed the file. That's the good fit of XDR, because we can see across the network, we can see across the email box, or we can see across the endpoint or servers. So if this file touch any piece of my network, I can see that using an XDR solution. So what I'm going to do, I'm just copy my hash, and here I have a search app that we call it, and then we have some parameters that we can use to search for some indicators or some topics. We can search for a command line. We can search for a domain name. If you are searching for malicious communications, we can search for sender, subject ID, endpoint name, hash, and something like that. So in my case, I'm going to search for file SHA-1, and I'm going to paste the hash of my files. So, and I'm going to use this for the last 24 hours, but you can change for the amount of time that you want. And I'm going to hit the search button. Now I got some results right here, but I don't like this view. I would like to have a more clean view, so it's better for me to hunt and understand a little bit more of what's going on inside of my environment. So I'm going to click on this one, this first event here, and here we have drill down with all the information related to this file. So we have the hash, we have the parent file, we have the user and the domain that was executing this file. We have the complete information about the machine. But I would like to have these in columns, so it's better to analyze and to understand what happened, what's the files that was involved, the user that was involved, the endpoint name. So I can just right click here, add to column view, and I have the endpoint name that was involved in that. I can click here, right click again, add to column view, and I have the process file path where this file was executed. And right now I'm going to use only these two, and I can have, for example, the user that executed this malware, because in a case of that, you would like to having the user to change this password like that. So now I have a better view that I can understand a little bit better what's happening. I can resize the columns here to have a better look. And I'm going to select the first one here, the first event here, and I'm going to right click on object file path, and I'm going to check execution profile. You'll note that we have some other options here, like we can copy this to clipboard. We can make a new searching to do a search based on the file name. We can make a filter to not show this information, or to show only this type of information, only the information related to this file. We can Google it to see what kind of results we have on the internet related to this file. We can see the execution profile, like the root cause on why this file was executed, the process that it started, the command control server that this file tried to access, and something like that. We can collect this file. Imagine that Trend does not have a pattern for this file, but you have a suspicions of this file, or you want to analyze, want to do a reverse engineering or a malware analysis of these files. You can collect this file and from the console to not be necessary to go to the user. Hey, I need to access your machine, or can you collect this file and send it to me? No, you can do that from the console, or you can go and click here to submit to Sandbox, and you'll have a full report of what this malware do with one click. But in my case, I'm going to check execution profile. It's going to open a new screen for me with the whole kill chain of how this malware was executed. So here we have the whole path for this malware, for the BazarLoader. So here we have the machine name, and if I do a right click here, I have a small menu with some information. For this case, it's really important. For example, if you are analyzing a BazarLoader case or a Cobalt Strike case, so those kind of threats that it's a really huge indicator of a ransomware outbreak, you just need to isolate those machines as fast as you can. So having those kind of features here, you can just click on the isolate button, and this machine will completely isolate from the rest of the environment. So just do a click here, and this machine will completely isolate and will no longer contact other machine while you do your investigation and threat hunting and for BazarLoader or for other malware campaign. Also, you can start a remote shell session on this machine. Imagine that you want to troubleshoot, you want to check for a process that is still active running on this machine, for IPs that the machine is still trying to contact or something like that, or you can build your own script like a Yara rule or something like that to execute on this machine and do a memory scan or something like that. So you have some capabilities here to respond fast to the threat because time is sensitive for those kind of threats. So here we have the whole path. Those are the Windows applications. And what I really want for me, what I really cares about is this part of the chain. So we have here that through the explorer.exe, the team viewer setup was executed. So the file was there at the machine. Someone went to the file and double click on that and executed the file. So after that, we saw that a TMP file, a team viewer TMP file was created and was executed. So we have the process here. We can click on this process of this TMP file. We have the file path. We have the command that was executed. We have the user administrator, the user domain, everything related to this file. And also we have a new tab here called events. When you come here, we have everything that these files did on the computer, on this machine. For example, we can see the process that this team viewer TMP file, this is a file that was created during the execution, during the installation of the team viewer. And we can see that he created two files, tv.exe. We can click here on the eye icon, and you can see that it's going to show here. And we have another one that's ste.exe. That's the same file that I mentioned to you and before we jump into the Vision One console. So we see that during the installation of TeamViewer, we see that tv.exe was dropped and st2.exe was dropped too. So tv.exe, we have more information about him here. Just clicking on that, we have the file path, we have the hash. If you want, you can grab this file hash here and go to a third-party tool to confirm and to check this hash value if it's normal or not. But as we can see here, this seems to be the legitimate TeamViewer executable. And we are not focused on this one. We're going to move to the ste.exe, and we can click on this one. You can see that the file path is completely different for the other one. This one it's at C driver and with a handle name here and the file. And in the other one, it's that it's an odd installation path too. But if you look for the whole queue chain, you'll see that this is the legitimate TeamViewer executable. And this one, you have the file path here. And if you go to the events and go to the created process, you'll see that after the file being dropped on the environment, it was executed by the malware. And you can click here again at the process that was executed. You can go to the connected URLs. And then you have 4 different URLs that was used by the malware as a command and control server. So a good reaction when you see that is go to these URLs and block those using maybe you're blocking them in your firewall or in your proxy, whatever you can, because the threat actor is going to use those 4 URLs here for data exfiltrations, for command and control, and probably one of those URLs going to be used to deploy Cobalt Strike or to deploy a second stage payloader to move laterally across your network. Use AD-Find to grab more information about your network, like AD relationships and some kind of information. So when you see that, you should block those URLs, domains, IPs as soon as possible. So sometimes when you click here, you'll see that there's an option to add to the block list. So what else you can do, for example, if you want to hunt for more indicators, imagine that you want to see that, hey, there are more machines in my environment that was trying to communicate with those IPs. You can just copy the IP and come here and do like IPv4 search and do a search here, and you'll see if there are more machines inside your environment trying to communicate with these IP. And also, there's a fast way to try to check to go to this executable that is our target. You can come just to the first item in our queue chain and go to events, created files, and just right click, just click on the icon, and we'll see that it's way fast. But doing that, you don't see the whole path of the malware until go to the C2. You just go to the file that it's your interest. But yes, you can do the same. You can, as I shared before, you can add the file to the block list. So when you click here, add to the block list, it's the hash of the file. You can put the information that you want here. For example, BazarLoader exe file. That's a new one because normally they use it they normally use DLL files that's dropped after an Excel, but now they are moving to executable files. And then when you do that, add to the block list, every computer or if email spam comes with this attachment, with this hash on the attachment, is going to be blocked due to the XDR feature. So after you do that, go to the block list. You just need to come here to the threat intelligence app, go to the suspicious object management, and then you have your file here added to the suspicious object list. So it's going to be blocked every time that, let me find the file here. It's this one, BazarLoader exe file. So every time that this file touch something inside your network, it's going to be blocked by the agent. So it's a fast way to respond to the threat. So Eric, I think that's all. Just a simple way so that we can use to hunt for BazarLoader in our environment.
Thanks, Lucas. There was a couple questions here. One is what all would be blocking that you just showed in there? Can you show like where the product registration is, or explain, what's going to be looking at that block list you just created?
Okay. So let me get back to the. Let me see if I can just go back. So the question is related to the block list, right?
Yes.
So imagine that this is the file, right? This is the file here. So imagine that it's a new file that Trend Micro or does not have a pattern yet, but you have the metadata of the file and you have a suspicious about this file. and you have based on the queue chain that this is malicious. So what are the two steps that you can do? One is collect the file. You can collect this file and do your own analysis, and by yourself, go into the to your own VM and do your analysis, collecting this file. Or you can only go to the block list, right click on the file that you want to block or the IP that you want to block, the domain that you want to block, and just click on here, add to the block list. So everything will be automatically added to the list of files that it's suspicious that you want to block. It will be automatically added to the block list. And every time that this file touch your disk or go through the mailbox of one of your users, this file is going to be blocked because it's in your block list. And you can, for example, imagine that you just want to monitor this file inside your network. You don't want to block because you don't want to call the attention of the threat actor for some specific region. You can just, for example, log, put the action to log. So every time that this file touch any disk or anyone try to use this file, it's going to create an action of log, and you're going to generate a log, and you'll see that someone was trying to execute, or someone download this file on your network, or someone tried to open attachment with this file. So this is a kind of feature that we have, and we can set the risk. It's a high risk, medium, or low.
Okay. Another question is you're showing an attack here that's based on a compromised installer. Is this something that you've seen commonly, or is it a trend that seems to be increasing?
Yes, we are seeing this a lot. For example, today morning, I was working an incident that it's already running, and the threat actor was using a legitimate tool that was compromised and infected to deploy the ransomware. The executable of the ransomware itself was in a legitimate tool that was compromised. So it's being used a lot.
Okay, and another question just came in here, and I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer. Lucas says, are the actions that you take with Division 1s, like the file block that you just showed, or endpoint isolation, are those also tracked or shown within Apex Central if you're using Apex 1?
Yes, when you add this here and you go to the Apex Central, you'll see that this is there too. And I think there's a in a column, it's going to say that it's showing XDR API or something like that. That's going to be the name, but it's going to be there.
Yeah, anything that is registered Division 1 should receive that suspicious object list that you create there. So, okay. And I believe that brings us up to date on any questions. If anybody has anything else, now would be the time. And if not, we can wrap things up here. Okay. Well, if not, let me share my screen here. And we'd like to thank everybody for joining us here today. This session, as well as all of the prior sessions we have done, are available on the breach detection site, which if you scan the QR code that's on the screen there, or go to trendmicro.com/breach detection, you can find that. We also post information and links to some of the other resources within Trend Micro, including our research and our zero-day initiative. Also, feel free to reach out to myself, Lucas, or Johanna. Our email addresses are on the screen. We'd be more than happy to follow up with you if you have any questions. Also, if you have any comments or maybe future things you'd like to see in the future, you can send us that feedback here as well. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and hope everybody has a good day. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.